Hello again. Last night, somebody alerted me to an attempt which is being made to cause me financial harm by spreading a deliberate lie about my work. I've been looking into the matter today, and I find that I shall have to take some action about this, albeit with great reluctance. It is always sad to lose old friends, but I'm afraid that the three men going under the names of Bob Wilkins, Granville Keane, and J. Harrick Carnelian are engaged in a conspiracy to harm my livelihood, and this is not something I can really overlook. Specifically, one of them devised a shocking falsehood about me, likely to adversely affect my standing in the world of publishing and journalism, and the other two are busy spreading this falsehood and encouraging others to believe it to be true. Just to make this perfectly plain, three men, all using false identities, have come up with a way in which they hope to inflict financial harm on a complete stranger by means of circulating lies about his integrity as a writer. Some viewers might recollect that Scripture tells us, "Be sure your sin will find you out." It's in the book of Numbers 32, verse 23. And this is a perfect illustration of that biblical advice. As I'm sure most people know, I'm a professional writer of non-fiction, chiefly popular history. I'm the author of Elective Home Education in the United Kingdom, Unearthing London, Life in Roman London, History of Capital Punishment in Britain, School Life in Post-War Britain, Suffragette Bombers, First World War Trials and Execution, and dozens more. This is how I make my living, by writing non-fiction, journalism and so on. Last Saturday, the man who uses the false name of J. Harrick Carnelian was chatting in the comments to a video which he had posted on his channel. The subject was a piece of writing which I had put up on my Substack account. I give a link to it in the description to this video. It's free to read. Somebody commented about me there, saying, "All signs point to the majority of his content being gleaned from various far-right white supremacist organisations like VDARE and American Renaissance. His material isn't original, he's just reposting it from other sources." To which J. Harrick Carnelian responded that I had plainly lifted chunks from the sort of sources you mention. In other words, the suggestion is that I've been copying text written by other writers and passing it off as my own work. Then he went a little further and said, "By the way, I fed this into software to check for plagiarism. It's rife with it." This is, of course, completely untrue. Every word of that piece of writing, and for that matter everything else I've written in the whole course of my life, is my own original work. J. Harrick Carnelian thought, though, that it was worth making this claim, and two other people took it up with enthusiasm. The man calling himself Bob Wilkins posted a link to this on his own channel, saying that this falsehood was excellent investigative journalism. This is bizarre in the extreme. You see, when as in the present case, a man sitting at home on a Saturday night dreams up a dreadful falsehood about a complete stranger and then publishes it on the internet, the phrase which first springs to my mind to describe that process is not really excellent investigative journalism. Let's face it, telling lies and making up stories requires little or no effort. The man calling himself Granville Keane also encouraged J. Harrick Carnelian in his lies by saying in a comment, "Please provide some examples in a video or comment. I feel like sharing such info. Nice work, mate." J. Harrick Carnelian promises to provide examples the next day. He didn't do so, of course, because the whole thing is a figment of his imagination. There could hardly be a more damaging allegation for a professional author than this. that I'm simply copying material produced by others and then reposting it and claiming it to be my own work. Clearly it's actionable, but since the man who invented this idea is a disabled guy living on a council estate up by Victoria Park in Hackney, I hardly think it would be worth my while to get my solicitor onto it. A look around the channel run by the man using the name Bob Wilkins also carries a comment from somebody asking, apropos of me, ask why he's so terrified of PNC access. Then the same person comments below this saying, the day his dirty psycho fans find out. Most of his fans wouldn't care though. PNC, of course, stands for Police National Computer. I was unaware of being terrified of it, but the aim here is, of course, to try and persuade people that I have a criminal record, perhaps for something disgraceful, which I'm anxious to avoid people learning about. Bob Wilkins' channel seems to be becoming a clearinghouse for defamatory stuff like this. The irony here is that since I was told about this, I've been looking today at quite a bit of Bob Wilkins' channel, and in a recent video he talks a good deal about his moral compass and moral code. He is providing a platform for barefaced lies and smears, and even encouraging people to tell lies about me by describing the spreading of falsehoods as excellent. This may perhaps be his idea of morality, but it's not really mine. Still, some of the more cynical among you may perhaps be saying, how do we know you haven't really been copying and pasting stuff from other websites as is suggested? The answer is simple. Out of the more than 200,000 subscribers here, I'm sure there are some who are in education and have access to Turnitin or some other program for detecting plagiarism. Why not run the piece to which I give a link, or indeed anything else I've ever written, upon which you can lay your hands through the system? Of course, I quote other people in my work, so Charles Darwin's writing will be mentioned in the report, but you will observe that I always do this with quotation marks and references. This particular piece, that is claimed to contain chunks of other people's work, uses Harvard referencing, and everything not enclosed in quotation marks is my work. Which, by the way, this particular piece was first published in November 2021. I don't see why I should provide a platform to people who plot such crafty moves, and so in the next day or so I shall be blocking them all from commenting further here. I'm not a vindictive man though, so I shall temper justice with mercy. If the three of them apologise in the comments here, and J. Harriet Carnelian, in addition to that, removes the outrageous lie from his channel, then I'm prepared for them to remain here and carry on commenting. I've got no particular animosity towards them. If that allegation is still on J. Harriet Carnelian's channel on Monday, then I'll have to see what I can do about it. As I see, taking legal action would be a waste of time and money, but I can't help wondering what J. Harriet Carnelian has actually been up to with plagiarism software, and what else he might have been doing with other people's work. You see, Birkbeck uses the Turnitin program, and if he really is a doctoral student, then he might have access to this, say if he were doing tutoring work there, for instance. So if that bit on his channel is still up on Monday morning, I shall be on to the Centre for Contemporary Literature at Birkbeck to see if their systems are being misused. That will, I think, be a good start, and I have a few other ideas as well. Even if I felt inclined to do so, I can't really let this ride, or else some people are sure to start claiming that there is something in the idea that I'm copying other people's work. For a professional who makes his living from writing, that could be very serious. By the by, observant viewers will have spotted that I removed the bit about the suffragette line, the railway that I put up yesterday. This is because I'm having more problems with YouTube's algorithms in their system generally. The thumbnail to that video has triggered another bit of friction, I mentioned on it glorification of terrorism, you see, and that phrase has been picked up and objected to. It seemed easier simply to remove the whole thing. While looking at Jarek Carnelian's site and skimming through the posts he's made in the last few days, I see that he is suggesting that I didn't know about the province of Northern Ireland and that it only came into existence a few years after the end of the Great War. That's actually quite a, well, relatively sensible point. I know this, of course, because I've written at some length about the history of Ireland, particularly Northern Ireland, in a book of mine called British Concentration Camps, 1900 to 1975. I've got a chapter there about the concentration camp in Wales, where some of the men from the Easter Rising were kept, and so on. The bomb at Lisbon in 1914, planted by a suffragette, was, of course, in Ireland, as it was at that time. But I usually say when talking of it, Northern Ireland, not capitalised to indicate the province, but more Northern Ireland as in Northern Britain or Northern Canada or something, because this tells modern readers that it was in that part of Ireland which featured in the modern Troubles since the 1960s. This links it with modern terrorism in a way that simply saying Ireland would not. I could, of course, have said Ulster, but I avoid that because it always used to indicate that one was aligned with the Protestants and not the Catholics. I spent time in the province in the summer of 1972, just after the no-go areas were cleared out, and talking of Ulster down Springfield Road would at once have raised eyebrows and might have caused people to jump to unfortunate conclusions about me.